The Phantom console. The Phantom is the most infamous example of a console that was built on lies. When Infinium Labs appeared in 2003, almost nobody in the industry had heard of them, yet they arrived with massive claims. Unlimited digital gaming, instant downloads, faster than a PC performance, and a subscription service that would change gaming forever. Digital distribution barely existed at that time, making their promises sound futuristic and groundbreaking. But the deeper people looked, the clearer it became that the Phantom was built on marketing, not technology. From day one, Infinium Labs made promises they could not possibly deliver. They told investors they had a completed hardware prototype, but what they actually had was an empty case. They claimed they had distribution deals with major publishers, but not a single well-known publisher had agreed. As deadlines slipped and millions of dollars vanished into marketing, the lies became obvious. Journalists uncovered that the launch model shown at press events had no internal components. Investors discovered the company had fewer than 10 actual engineers. Lawsuits followed, revealing that Infinium Labs had spent far more money on advertising and executive salaries than on research and development. The Phantom finally collapsed without ever shipping a single unit, becoming the gold standard for a console built entirely on deception. Its legacy today is a textbook warning: hype cannot replace hardware. The Gizmondo. While the Phantom was built on technological lies, the Gizmondo was built on downright criminal ones. Launched by Tiger Telematics in 2005, the Gizmondo was marketed as the handheld that would crush the Nintendo DS and the PlayStation Portable. It promised GPS features, multimedia apps, incredible 3D graphics, and exclusive games. But almost all of these features were exaggerated or completely fictional. Behind the scenes, its studio executives were living extravagant lifestyles using investor money. They purchased supercars, luxury homes, private jets, and threw massive parties while claiming the money was needed for product development. The company promised GPS-powered gaming, but the GPS barely worked. They promoted incredible 3D titles, but the games available were low-budget shovelware. They claimed the handheld had breakthrough technology in mobile networking, but it used outdated hardware with no real innovation. The Pippin, Apple's misleading revolutionary platform. The Apple Bondi Pippin is often remembered as an overpriced failure, but fewer people know how misleading the marketing behind it was. Apple pitched the Pippin as a powerful multimedia platform that could run advanced gaming and internet applications, calling it the future of home computing. They claimed it could stand against the Sony PlayStation and Nintendo 64, and that it could bridge the gap between consoles and computers. In reality, the Pippin was underpowered even on release day. It used outdated Macintosh architecture that was never designed for gaming, and its performance was significantly below the PlayStation despite its much higher price. Apple knew these limitations internally, but they hid them behind buzzwords like multimedia, interactive entertainment, and next-generation architecture, terms deliberately chosen to sound impressive while saying nothing specific. The Ouya. The Ouya is unique because it wasn't built on lies from a corporation. It was built on lies of ambition. The Ouya Kickstarter campaign became one of the biggest in crowdfunding history because the pitch was irresistible. An affordable Android-based console that would disrupt the market, give indie developers a platform, and make game publishing open to everyone. It promised easy development, open hardware, and a thriving marketplace. It looked like a revolution, but the truth slowly emerged. Developers found the Ouya extremely difficult to optimize for. The controller, advertised as premium quality, arrived with input lag and cheap components. The game library, promised as massive, launched with mostly mobile ports. The performance, marketed as powerful, struggled with even basic 3D games. Ouya executives reassured backers that the store would explode with new releases, but the store barely expanded at all. Many devs who signed on early later admitted they were misled by exaggerated projections of the Ouya's capabilities. The Coleco Chameleon. The Coleco Chameleon is one of the most blatant hardware lies of all time. Presented as a retro revival console in 2016, it promised to bring back cartridge gaming with modern convenience. Retro fans were excited, especially because it was supposedly backed by the revived Coleco brand. The developers claimed they had a working prototype, showed press images, and began preparing for crowdfunding. Then the lies unraveled spectacularly. The prototype, Displayed at Toy Fair was exposed as a Senni's mini board shoved inside a transparent Jaguar case. The next prototype attempt used a DVR capture cardboard covered with random wires to mimic a motherboard. When photographs leaked, the retro community tore the project apart, proving beyond doubt that the console did not exist in any real form. Coleco immediately pulled their licensing support and distanced themselves from the project entirely. The developers were caught faking hardware multiple times, using off-the-shelf components disguised as original engineering. Instead of delivering a console, they delivered one of the most embarrassing public frauds in gaming history. The Chameleon never released, and its creators disappeared from the industry after being exposed. The Hyperscan Mattel's Hyperscan looked like a unique hybrid system that combined card scanning gameplay with traditional console experiences. The pitch was that you could scan cards to update your characters in real time, create evolving fighters, and unlock massive expansions. They advertised it as a system with endless possibilities powered by RFID magic, but almost none of that promise was real. The card scanning technology was painfully slow. The hardware was underpowered, running weak chipsets that could barely handle basic graphics. The entire system felt cheap and unfinished. Yet, Mattel advertised it as a breakthrough. In commercials, scanning cards instantly transformed characters, but in reality, each scan took many seconds and often failed entirely. The deep, expandable gameplay was nowhere to be found. The Zeebo. The Zeebo was marketed as the console that would bring gaming to developing countries. Its creators promised a cheap, secure, digital-only platform that would eliminate piracy and bring high-quality games to regions where consoles were too expensive. The problem was that almost all of these promises relied on unrealistic assumptions about infrastructure, pricing, and consumer behavior. Zeebo claimed it could eliminate piracy through locked-down digital distribution, but hackers cracked the system almost immediately. They claimed consumers in Brazil and India would adopt the platform rapidly, but the pricing of games was still far too high for the market. They claimed 3G connectivity would allow seamless downloads, but networks at the time were slow and unreliable. They promised big-name publishers, but few delivered more than basic ports. The Polymega. The Polymega marketed itself as the ultimate modular retro system, promising compatibility with dozens of classic consoles, flawless emulation, and swappable hardware modules. It claimed to provide legal, accurate gameplay for everything from NES to Sega Saturn, something no commercial machine had ever achieved flawlessly. But conflicting communication, shifting specs, and long delays led many to accuse the company of misleading customers. For years, Polymega showed renders and promises, but few working units. Features changed repeatedly. Compatibility lists were confusing and inconsistent. The company announced partnerships that never materialized. The hardware kept missing release windows while the team insisted everything was nearly finished. Customers waited with growing suspicion as delays stretched into years. And that was the story of the consoles that weren't just doomed. They were built on hype, deception, and promises that could never come true. If you enjoyed exploring the darker corners of gaming history, make sure to like the video, subscribe to Video Game Guy, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another deep dive. Thanks for watching.